Hey everyone, welcome to WhyBuy. Today we're talking about the C5 Audi RS6 Avant. So RS cars in general are pretty damn special, but when you see an RS badge on an Avant, that's truly next level. And Avants are huge family cars. If you look at the Euro scene, everybody loves Avants. And I wanted to have that family lifestyle. I have a family, we're growing, but I don't want to lose that performance side. I want to be able to have my kids, my wife, my parents in the car, a dog in the car, and I want to be able to fly by that coupe that's on the side of the road there. So when I first sat down in the car, I did not know what to think. It was probably a lot of emotion of something that I never thought I would be able to afford or be able to actually sit and drive in. But sitting there, seeing the carbon fibers, seeing the original analog clusters, feeling the leather steering wheel, having the seats hug you, that was just a perfect moment in time where I knew that underneath my foot I had over 400 horsepower to all four wheels, and this was a car meant to eat up the Autobahn within minutes. So RS cars in general they're pretty understated. To the normal on-trade eye, you see it, great, nice car, it's a cool car. Once you take it for a spin, go for a ride, you are kind of pleasantly surprised about what it can do, even the stature of a wagon. And that's the one thing I love. The wagon is so understated, but the odd time that somebody knows what it is or they see it, they're like, wow, I can't imagine this thing can do what it does. So I'm supposed to be in fourth gear. And I'm like, just like that, at the speed limit, let's say. So as I was walking up to the car, I really fixated on certain things. That small Audi RS badge and that little grille that it has up front compared to what Audis have nowadays. That sweet sweeping out Avant line. That brushed aluminum accents. Everything about that car just showed perfection. And when I opened that door, you see original carbon fiber back from when the car was created. You see these unique Recaro seats, which are half leather, half this beaded cloth, which I have no idea what it is, but it's amazing. They're fully heated seats front and rear, Recaro logos front and back. And the biggest thing out of all of it is full Alcantara headliner. Even the trunk is covered in Alcantara. That's insane. So what's different about driving this car? Well, it is much more mechanical than I ever thought it would be. It goes down to just opening the door and typical Audi key. Well, there's no more push button start. You got to stick this in and actually start the car. And you hear that mechanical noise of the starter, the engine overturning. Down to when you're hitting the gas. Surprisingly, there's no turbo lag. You have all that power underneath your foot, and it doesn't accelerate as a typical twin turbo V8 car does. It's always in that power band. It's a nice and smooth acceleration. It doesn't throw you back in the seat, but you know that power is there, and it's good. Like, you know, in comfort mode, it's smooth, it's fine, it's responds just like a normal automatic. And I feel like in Europe, people value the real estate that you get in the car. I'm like, if I have a chance to buy, if I have $60,000 to buy a supercar, like not supercar, but a super sedan or a coupe, I will buy the super sedan because, you know, I can fit more people in it. And what's that joke? More doors, more hose. From back in the day. I would never say that actually to to my wife. But I have more real estate. I can fit a trunk full of stuff. I can comfortably fit 4 people. And I can have a turbo V8 with tons of power. I can get from point A to point B. I can blow by most people on the roads. And that's what's kind of steered me towards this. And you'll see a Maserati and people will be like, oh wow, it's a Maserati, it's amazing, or it's a coupe, whatever, it's great. And then they'll see a wagon and like, oh, okay, cool, normal wagon, whatever. But yeah, it's a different, I don't know if it's a different lifestyle or it's a different viewpoint and looking at cars and looking at what they're capable of and what they're made for. So yeah, there's something about the wagons that just, I originally started with I don't know, this was like a 2008, 2009 Desert Sand Mica Toyota Corolla that my parents gave me when I was going to school. That was a great vehicle. But when I finished school, I was kind of like, you know what? I need to upgrade. I need to elevate my car game. And I'm a big car enthusiast. So my first car that I looked at was Audi A4 S-Line Avant. I love those things. The dual exhaust in the back, and it had to be white, S-Line, black wheels. It looked amazing. But they were really, really hard to find. And just something about that Avant wagon when Audi first released those LED headlights for driving lights, those were just amazing. And there's something about the station wagon which just drew me in really closely. But they were really, really hard to find. So I probably took months just to look at them. I found one, but it was a province over. So I had to figure out how to get there. So I made a plan. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna fly there, look at this car, and hopefully buy it. But plans changed. I went into the office the next day, talked to my boss, and he's like, hey, you know what? Before you make that trip, let's go have a look at Mercedes. I'm a big Mercedes guy. I think you'll like them. I was like, no, why not? What harm done is it? So come the next day, it's minus 35 degrees Celsius, and I'm dreading leaving the house. So he showed me this 2012 Mercedes C300 with a lighting package, the AMG Sport package, everything that I kind of want in a specific car. And I was trying to be as picky as possible because I still was set on the Audi. But you know what? I jumped in the car and it was weird. Right when I jumped in that car, I fell in love with it. I did not expect it. I sat in it and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy this car. Come a few months later, I bought a Benz. And I loved it for some reason. I don't know why, it was great. But I paid that off and I was looking, and I guess I wasn't looking, but I kind of caught a glimpse of a 2014 Mercedes E63 S wagon. And that's like one of the first wagons that just really, really caught my eye, but they were completely out of my budget. At that age, I could not justify such a big price bracket for a car. So kind of looking, and then a sedan of that same stature popped up and I just had to pull the trigger. The E63 has always been one of my dream cars. So I pulled the trigger on that. I loved it, drove it for a year and a half. But I'm not the type of person that likes to stand out. I like to have something unique, but something that I know about it and not a lot of other people know about it. It sounds weird, but it's just that kind of lifestyle I like to live. So I started browsing Auto Trader, and there it is. I found a 2004 Audi RS6 Avant. You might think that these kind of cars, the RS6 Avants, are nearly impossible to find, especially with how many they made worldwide and them never being let into North America. You might get lucky like I did. I actually found 2 quite quickly. The first one, which is the one right behind me, that was from BC, but it was a little bit too far away. So I kind of like waited in the market because I really wasn't in a rush. And then a week later, I found another RS6, and this one had lower kilometers, it was a little bit different color, and it was literally like 5 blocks from my house. So I was excited. When I went to go look at that car, it was great, but it had issues. There wasn't a lot of service records. They had a few cracks in the bumper. It sounded a little bit weird, and it kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. So I went on forums. I went on 3 different forums like AudiZine, RS246, etc. And I started looking, what are the biggest issues with these cars? And the stuff that I found was absolutely demoralizing. So one of the biggest problems that I noticed that these cars are prone to are Audi's dynamic ride control system, the DRC system. This is probably one of the first cars that they have that on this. And it's a hydraulically based suspension system where the pressure would move from one corner to the other corner of the car, depending how fast you're cornering, if it wants to be stiffer or a bit softer. But what would happen is if there's any leaks, you get a ton of knocking from either side and your suspension would pretty much just fail. The other thing is timing belts. Timing belts need to be replaced like every 70,000 kilometers in this car. And if it doesn't get it replaced, the engine's gone. Same with transmission. Transmission is known to fail, and that's an astronomical cost. So I did what any other normal car enthusiast would do. I went out and bought an RS6. So I think what's really important when you're buying these kind of cars is the seller. If the previous owner had every single record of when it got maintained, what got replaced, what seals got replaced, if the cam belt was maintained or if the transmission was maintained, that was the biggest relief. Because I don't think I'd ever want to purchase a car like this without any service records. So even though these cars are rare and very hard to find, never settle for a car that has no service records, especially in vehicles like these, especially the RS6. Doesn't matter if it had 1 or 2 or 3 owners, the more service records you have, the better. Because if you don't know what was serviced, you could be in a whole lot of trouble. So you're watching this video and you're probably asking yourself, why in the world did I sell a 2014 E63S? It had all the performance I needed and it had a lot of practicality. But you know what? I kind of got ahead with this crazy market. And that gave me the option to look at something more unique. And I really wanted something extremely practical and I didn't want to go in the SUV route. So that's where the RS6 Avant fell into place. It had all the performance I ever needed for a daily driver and all the practicality to haul 2x4s, brakes, anything and everything you can imagine. You know, it's scary buying a car like this across the province and sight unseen pretty much. But you know, when things just fall into place. I sold my E63 on a Wednesday. I got the check on a Thursday morning. I booked my flights on a Thursday night and I was on the plane on Friday morning out to BC to meet this guy, which I've never heard of or never seen before. So on the flight to BC, I was super excited, but I was super nervous because I was going to a province, I was going to a city which I never really traveled by myself. But when I met him, he picked me up at the dock and we straight away went for a cruise up into the mountains just to see how the car is feeling. And it was great, the car was amazing. And then once I saw all the service records, everything that he's done in Vancouver, to the original import sheets out of Japan, to the original sales sheets, and even the original Audi assistance card for the person who originally bought the car. And that was just a done deal right there. So service records in general just tell you the maintenance of the cars, right? But there was something different about this car. The service records kind of told the story and the history of this car, where it originally started in Germany in this factory. It drove on the tarmac there. Then I got to Japan and experienced all the roads there. And then from there, on a boat, on a ship, however it got here to Vancouver. And then I got shipped from Vancouver to Edmonton, where the seller used to originally live. And he drove it back to Vancouver. And now it's in my hands, where I flew to Vancouver, drove it through the mountains, and now it's back where it originally came into in Canada, in Edmonton. Not a lot of cars have that much history and that kind of story that you can look back at the facts, look back at the history, and see exactly where it's been at what time and place around the world. And it's just one of those cars where it's worth knowing the story of where it started, where it's been, and where it is now. Like, can you really think about a Kia Rio or Dodge Challenger jumping ships across everywhere? So going through the whole process, I didn't tell a lot of people what I was buying. I wanted to keep it a secret, but I showed it to my wife, and she doesn't really like Avants. She was never a fan of it. But she flew out to Vancouver when I picked up the car. We drove back, and it almost flipped like a switch. She understood the practicality behind it, she understood the performance behind it, and it's even funny that on the way back, she was shopping for inflatable mattresses that would fit into an RS6. She says, you know what, I don't like camping, but I would camp in the back of this. The other person that kind of knew that I was going to look at these kind of cars was my dad. And my parents are always very money conscious and very quality conscious. So when they saw what I was going to get, their first comment was, why in the hell are you buying a piece of trash? Why are you wasting your money on this? But you know what? I went against what they wanted. I went out to get this car, and on the way back, I stopped at their place. My dad saw it and his eyes lit up. Right when I opened up even the hood, my mom was like, oh, did you replace the engine? It looks totally brand new. Like, no, this is the original car. And they were just so surprised how great of condition this thing was. And they kind of changed what their viewpoint of this car was. So this car originally came with that dynamic ride control system, which clearly failed because now we have KW V3 coilovers on it. And for a car this size, it's really, really heavy. So my initial thought of it is when I'm going to be going around a corner, it's going to lean. it's gonna feel heavy, it's gonna just push our nose through. But surprisingly, it's very, very planted. It handles great on the highways, it handles great in the roads, and it changes directions extremely fast. So one thing I quickly noticed with this car is driving back from Vancouver to Edmonton, doing that 1,000 kilometer trip, I did not feel tired in it. And I think that's all down to that sound installation that they have. They're meant to be very comfortable cars, and they don't fatigue you as much as my previous cars or as other cars. So looking inside in the car, it is still pretty old school. With the analog dials, everything's kind of manual shifted buttons. The one thing I did change is the technology piece of the doubled in radio system. Originally when the car came, it came with a Japanese based system. And driving down the road here, you'd hear the odd Japanese lingo of, hey, you're driving in the water or something. I don't know what they're saying. So I upgraded to a full-on Kenwood system, and I now have CarPlay, wireless CarPlay and Android Auto. So that kind of bridges the gap between old school mechanical and a bit of that tech, which I still like. So as any car enthusiast, I kind of looked into modifying this car. But I always went back and forth in my head of, do I want to modify it, do I not want to modify it? And right now, the car is staying completely stock. Down to the OEM wheels, they're in great condition, and I'm keeping them completely stock. If there's something about that old school look which I love about this car, I don't think I really need to change anything about it. So jumping into this car, I noticed right off the bat it's got a sunroof, and I love sunroofs. I can't buy a vehicle with a sunroof. But one thing that kind of threw me off guard is, it's not a true sunroof. It's a solar panel. And I was like, what in the world is this for? So if you ever look at one of these cars, if it has a solar panel on the roof, they're meant to run the air conditioning, run the ventilation system when the car is hot and the car is off, just so when you jump into it and it's all black leather, you're not gonna die when you jump into that car. So one of the things that I really like about Audi specifically is that a lot of their innovations which come years down the road in other cars, they're very, very practical. Down to the multiple cup holders, one on the top, one on the bottom, down to the solar panel sunroof that will run your fans just to cool the car down a bit, down to the heated seats, multi-level for heated seats front and rear, to the dog gate in the back, to the covers, it just seems everything is just meant for practicality. So throughout my time, I've been part of a lot of different car culture groups. And out of all of them, I don't want to be biased here or not, but the VW Audi group, the car culture is just something different. It's very inclusive. It's very, very family oriented, and people are just out there to help you in any way possible. So one thing I found really amazing about the Audi groups and the VW groups is that they're very inclusive. There's no that elitism that you would find in some car brands, but they're just very friendly, and the people there, they just know that the car culture is about the car. It's about, it doesn't matter if you have an S4, an A4, an A6, if you have a Q5, or if you have an RS6. We are all car enthusiasts. So one of my favorite things about Audi in general, and especially this car, is that they prioritize engineering over styling. And you can clearly tell by the shape of this car. It's very boxy, but it's still very sleek. And it's very utilitarian and very practical. But Audi did throw in a few little cues with the brushed aluminum, the dual oversized oval exhaust system for this car, little red accents, and those massive, massive oversized wheel arches. That's something that I absolutely love about that car. And that's why I didn't buy the car so that somebody could kind of see it from far away and they can know exactly what it is. I bought it because I knew what it was, and I absolutely loved that styling behind it. So if you thought this video was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe. Show your support, and thanks for watching. Perfect. Audi came in, had a beer, and they're like, you know what, we need to make this thing a little bit more unique. Let's give it a nice, fat wheel arches. You might think that finding a car like this is nearly impossible, especially with how many have been made and with them never coming to North America. But, how's the first part again?
So if you thought this video was helpful.
Okay, welcome to WhyBuy. Today, we're talking about, you're always hitting just the speed limit on this car.
It's safety first.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my God.
I know, man, these mosquitoes. So when I was searching for these cars, geez, mosquito. No problems. I'll have a jacket on tomorrow.
You want to...
Oh, wait, how's this start again? And we'll see you guys next time. Oh, and thanks for watching. Jeez. You want the... leave that on the cliffhanger. Yeah. This one's usually not as busy and they have wider slots. And it's, yeah, this thing right here, that stuff is their old PPF. And you can see it right here, this is all kind of shredded from the rocks. So I gotta either do some paint correction, do some PPF on it. And yeah, just something about the wagon and this being, you know, an RS6 OG wagon from back in the day that you can never really find here. And it's something about me loving wagons. I'm not sure if it's that, I think this thing has about 450, 460 horsepower roughly. 450 or 400 some foot-pounds of torque. You know, numbers are one thing. I don't think I need that much power as a daily, but it gets me by. Like I came from a W212 E63 AMG S sedan. Nothing was great, but there's something about this RS6 that is just, yeah, something next level. You know, the one downside about this car is it's black. And it's like a metallic black with a, I want to say a hint of a green sparkle to it, I think. And it's a nightmare to keep clean. People see it, they're like, oh, an RS6, why are you so slow on the streets? Why are you driving the speed limit? Why are you not accelerating so hard? What's the point? Sure, I'll get from one stoplight to the other stoplight faster, but is it necessary? Not always, sometimes sure. But this thing doesn't have a huge, massive exhaust. It's still the original sport exhaust, so it's a little bit quiet. A little bit like a vacuum cleaner at times. So there's not really a point to actually gunning this thing all the time. Unless you want to clear it off with all this water, which we'll probably do. The one thing that I'm not the biggest fan of in this car is the inside side skirts. These things are one piece and they're a nightmare to clean sometimes. And they collect so much dust. But when they're clean, they look great. So always got to have a separate cloth just for that kind of stuff, because yeah. But it's amazing to see how it's a car from 2004 in this good condition with one piece side skirts is unreal. Like my 2014 E63 didn't have such nice like, I don't know if you call it side skirts, but little embellishments on the inside. So, but yeah, never thought I would own a car that has that red RS badge ever in my life. So it was definitely a bit of a dream come true when it was an RS6, and even though it's not the 2021 model, it's something unique, that's for sure. I think that's one of the things that a lot of us guys from the VW world and the Audi world that we like, is that a lot of the RS cars are very understated. They look just like any other S, A, whatever model series car, and they, to the naked eye, nothing special. Looks good?
Looks good.
Like that was my wife's whole thing, is like, why do you want a station wagon? Only old people drive station wagons and all this. Yeah, now that she actually experienced it, she's like, oh, okay, I can see why. The one thing I noticed on these things is like, there's so many different tire pressures on here, but it's still, on the top is all Japanese. I was like, what does that even say? Yeah. And I think one of the stickers that I'll never take off in this car is the imported by Audi Japan KK. When this car was originally sold, must have been special ordered from Japan. Must have been whoever lived in Japan, whatever. Special ordered from Germany or whatever. Because like even the name on his little roadside assistance card, it's not written in Japanese. It's different. The cutout is different. It's about to here, and these are on the sides. So that's why I'm like, okay, so that's a Euro spec car in Japan. Because even when I was getting harnesses for my new radio, I told him, I was like, yeah, the car's from Japan. So he sent me harnesses. He's like, oh, but yours is a Euro spec, not a JDM spec. I'm like, oh. So I did not know there was a difference at first. But yeah, there's a lot of little things in the back end. I always thought these things had bigger tanks than they actually are. But that's the one thing I find with this is there's literally almost no turbo lag. And I'm like when I grew up, I was like, I drove a friend's G35 twin turbo, and I was like, okay, at a certain RPM, you really feel the power start coming in.
Yeah.
But this thing is so linear that there's no like massive like boost spike or anything like that, or anything major power spike. It's just nice and smooth. It shifts good, and just yeah, there's power everywhere, which is great. AMG GTR, damn, that's sick. It's funny how you see in the car world where people these like very unique or very loud, very fun cars like that, like that's probably $250,000 right there, and the guy is just sensibly driving it.
Yep.
He knows he can do this corner flat out or whatever, he can slide it, but what's the point? And it's that kind of reminds me of like, you know, all of us car guys, we love Fast and Furious movies, and the whole what's the point thing is back. I want to say this is probably in Tokyo Drift, where the guy's like, oh, how come you don't drift your cars? And Han's like, well, what's the point? Like, I'll just prove that I'm faster than the person, right? That's it. Like, and he drifts for the whole thing of like getting a girl's number or like for specific reasons.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, yeah, what's the point of me trying to race down the road in a street like this where the speed limit is 50 and I'm trying to go from red light to red light as fast as possible? And then maybe somebody will run out on the road kind of idea. And that's one thing like you see here in Canada and North America, like yeah, we have speed limits and all this kind of stuff. There's so many accidents, so many speeding tickets, etc. And then you look at, for example, Germany, people respect the law when they come to residential zones, when they come into cities, communities, but on the highways, like especially in the unrestricted Autobahn, it's go for it. And there's less, like I think there's less deaths on the Autobahn than like what we would have here in a year. And the cars are like
meant for it.
Yeah, they're meant for it. They're maintained. They have good brakes. It's weird that I can go around an exit and do 100 plus, and the car will stick. And I can't wrap my head around it because it's a wagon. Like it shouldn't be able to do that.